planning commission is required to make prior to the city council adopting the CIP. We've done it in past years, as you recall. Well, what I've done is a 5-year plan. So if a significant project changes in the 5 years, we would come back. But if nothing changes, then that 5-year consistency determination would remain in effect. Generally, the town does, drainage projects, street resurfacing projects, and so we haven't had a lot of significant new projects in the CIP that would have us come back to that determination. So this is kind of that next round of cycles for the 5-year CIP.
Well,
Be happy to try to answer any questions.
yeah, the drainage plan isn't, we don't have a drainage, the drainage plan yet.
Correct.
So it's, as you say, it's hard to know that it's consistent with the general plan. I have a hard time with that. The traffic safety improvement program. We have a bicycle plan that, or bike and walking plan, whatever it's called.
Bike ped master plan, right,
Right.
that's being drafted,
Yeah,
correct?
that isn't.
That we haven't
complete.
seen yet,
So
right?
we don't know whether that's consistent, and I have a lot of concern about that because it seems that there are some people who think that we should be building bicycle paths and sidewalks, and not only is that against our general plan, but we don't have physical space on most of our streets for something of that sort. The next project I have a problem with is the gateway signs. I've never heard of gateway signs in Atherton, on El Camino. First off, I don't think El Camino belongs to us, it's a state highway. I believe Caltrans owns it. Now, I know we do some maintenance on the median. I don't know if it would include putting up our own signs along there. But I don't know that I think most Athertonians want people to, if they come into Atherton, they want them to leave, and we don't want, we don't want them to say, hey, let's shop around Atherton and see.
Well, they can shop.
See if we can see
they're
Willie
not gonna
Mays
find
or
anything.
whatever.
If they find anything for sale, let me know.
Right,
On
right.
the houses.
On the accessibility, well, and then there's the bicycle and pedestrian facilities improvement plan. I'm not convinced at all that that's consistent with our general plan. And on the accessibility improvements, it's talking about repairs to curbs, gutters, and sidewalks. I don't think we have curbs, gutters, and sidewalks. The only one I know of is along Watkins and out here, yeah. Those are,
Lloyd Park, maybe? Yeah. And so, that's required by law, that if you have a sidewalk, you have to have a plan to do modifications over a certain period of time. But you're right, there's very limited areas.
yeah, well, it doesn't
You're worried that it implies that we will have
Have,
those things
right,
rather than the ones
right,
that we.
exactly. Exactly. Let's see, what else? Yeah, I guess that's it.
I just had a question on page 21 with the bicycle pedestrian facilities improvement program and the disparity in spending from next year through the subsequent years. And I was wondering why that was, if you had any idea. Okay,
No.
all right, that's fine. It jumped out at me. It's like, oh, because everything else looks pretty consistent, across the 5-year plan, unless it's a one-time.
I think they're trying to do one big
Right.
first route and try to match it with a grant, but since the plan hasn't been approved yet, it's just kind of a concept from
Right.
staff
Okay.
that they're proposing.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, so I'm interested in how this fits into the process that we're doing this in, so that I understand. So I want to make sure what we would slow down if this doesn't move through. I understand that all these elements can be put on this list, and, you know, then they're detailed out behind them by some other, at some other time, by some other process. But without it, you can't even start them. So I need to understand how this fits into what overall process we're talking about.
You're saying if the planning commission were not able to act on
Yeah,
this, what would happen?
Yeah, that's one aspect of it. I mean, the other
We've
thing.
had that situation.
Well, okay, no, that's what I meant. That's why I asked it, because the idea is that this is part of the sort of puts together the tenets that you can work underneath, is that correct? I'm trying to figure out how this fit, so some of the concern I think Mary Beth has is, I'm being asked to authorize something that I don't understand what I'm fully authorizing.
Right.
Okay, so that means it's in the middle of this process, kind of like an EIR process where people say, are you approving it? No, I'm not approving it, but I'm saying that everything's been addressed. So there's usually, whenever this happens, there's usually this macro thing going on.
Right.
And there's a micro thing going on underneath it at a different path. And when you ask people about the macro plan, they say, well, what is the detail? You say, I don't have the detail yet, and it goes back and forth just like it's done. So tell me how that.
Right, so the CIP outlines, you know, kind of large projects that are
Right.
planned out for the next 5 years that the staff envisions. It goes forward to the city council through the budget process, and then they would come back after it's authorized in the CIP with project specifics, like you said, very detailed cost estimates and, you know, engineered plans as to what would be implemented.
We wouldn't see those, they'd go to the council.
You would not see them unless there was some trigger for you to see them, like an environmental review, but no, typically you would not see them.
Okay.
So then that would be at the council level where they would review those details.
Okay. Then is there anything in this list that the city council would be surprised or not involved with previously to be put on this list?
I don't know if there's been any conversations, as planning commissioner, when Mayor indicated, I wasn't familiar with the entry, the gateway signs, so I don't know if that's been discussed, but they're certainly familiar with on the street sides, the series streetlight replacement. They've been talking about that for a while.
Well, I have a question on that one.
Sure.
Is it street light replacement or is it increased street light?
No, it's the existing lights. So there's a problem with the existing light system where it's really outdated and it's kind of a loop and they're having a difficult time maintaining it. And so they need to replace those lights with a different system, and they want to try to get to, you know, more energy efficiency
Yeah,
as well.
It's kind of like, remember the Christmas?
It's a
lights
Christmas
where-
light, exactly.
Where one bulb goes out
Yeah.
and then the following.
Yes, the
That's
serial
exactly
that-
it.
The tendency is while you're there, let's make them bigger and brighter.
That's not any,
And that's the one thing one of the reasons I'm concerned with that one.
well,
Yeah.
is what's
that would
what's
be at the
mean?
direction of the city council.
Yes, we don't know.
Isn't this
Well, I haven't
same
seen them
stuff-
do anything brighter, ever.
Same thing, same thing.
You said that with a little enthusiasm.
Additional light, additional light.
This one, we really don't have enough. And,
But I think the series lighting is limited to this
maintenance
area and Morton Park.
Yeah.
It's not like the lights in Lindenwood or.
the lights in Lindenwood are a problem. They are a problem.
Are they really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't get through there at night enough.
Nobody's going out, who cares?
All right.
Yeah, but that's a bulb issue. This is a maintenance, it's an old series
Yeah.
system.
That's part of the problem, the wiring go on in these things too.
Mhm.
But
Anyway,
anyway.
at least
Solely Wood Park.
I've got a
I
problem,
think that is the problem with the process, though.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I've got a problem with the capital improvement program on the town center, or city center. Where do those numbers come from?
What's the page number?
Public Works Department.
I don't think they're the right numbers in the right years.
30. It's 30?
What were they, 30?
Yeah, 30.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So, state law requires you review this before the city
Right.
council does,
That's
and I
right.
know it's difficult that you don't have a lot of detail in here.
Mhm.
That you can, if you want, make a finding and express comments and concerns with that finding. So you could say, we find these are consistent, however, we have concerns that we do not want to see new sidewalks, we do not want to see additional
Gateway
street
signs.
lighting, we're concerned about the gateway signs.
Keep going.
Certainly
You're
add,
doing fine.
whatever you want to add in there, you can certainly add.
Keep going.
I don't know what else there was.
And it,
Those are good
it
good
is,
points.
you know,
you can certainly do that.
it's more based on the calendar and the scheduling of these, of when they come through. It's not,
That's-
so I think you are, you know, catching a tension in the system where it's not like this is a right project and then you get to weigh in. So there is an absence of detail, because there's an absence of detail, because this is the snapshot in time.
Mhm.
Right.
So it's not a perfect system, it's not intended to be a perfect system, so your comments are welcome, and that is, the
Mhm.
role that you serve is to
Absolutely.
advise the city council on these things, so.
It's totally
I
appropriate.
think if you think about it in that context, it might take some of the frustration out of it. You're supposed to be making these comments.
How would we go about putting those comments together?
If you give them to me right now, I can write
Well, you
them
had,
up.
you had 3 of them right there, 4 of
Yeah.
them right there.
So it was no new streetlights,
Streetlights, sidewalks and gutters.
no new sidewalks and gutters.
Was
And I think it was
that-
concern with the gateway sign, not
Yeah,
necessarily
why?
prohibit it,
As
but
in why?
concern,
Yeah.
right?
Um,
Was there others that popped out again?
Let's see, what was the other one?
Bicycle,
Bicycle lanes.
So is the concern with the design of bicycle lanes?
Oh, a requirement for hardscaping that isn't there already.
Okay.
Um,
Phil, did you want to put something in there about the civic center estimates here?
I think
Well,
something.
I guess I'm worried about commenting on the
Consistency of the
budget
general
numbers
plan.
Okay,
as
all right.
opposed to just the consistency of the project.
general plan.
Okay.
That part's right, but I think the
Okay.
numbers are haywire.
Oh, do you want to have a comment about the park master plan? Ensure that it truly is consistent with the character of the park and, because
Well,
we haven't seen
yeah,
it yet.
I think we need to say something about each of the plans that we haven't seen.
Okay.
The park master plan, the bicycle master plan isn't complete, I don't believe. And the
Correct.
drainage improvement plan, what is
Got
it,
the
what,
old
is that what they called it?
Yeah, that's in process.
Right.
Drainage master plan.
What, if we can walk through each of those maybe, and what comment would the planning commission like to pass on them? Like on the park master plan?
I guess the biggest comment is that it's difficult to approve, to recognize plans that are consistent with the town general plan without having reviewed the plans.
so for example, there's one sentence in here that says, "For the proposed improvements to the park are consistent with the goals for the use of the park as an outdoor recreation facility for the benefit of the Atherton citizens." That would make sense if you were reviewing the plan.
Right.
If you didn't review the plan, then theoretically, you couldn't make a very comprehensive finding to that effect. So I think the concern is, there are certain things that you do as a rubber stamp, because that's how you do it to the next step. If you do that rubber stamp, what does that really send the message? Did you okay something that, no, but that's not really there?
Right.
And you come back 2 years later and says, but you guys improved it, because you said you
Yeah.
improved
Right,
it, right?
it is understood, I mean, everybody understands that when you're looking at this, you're limited by the limited amount of information available. So I don't think anybody would ever come back and go, well, you rubber stamped it. They would say, okay, at the time it was general plan
Well,
for, and, you know, you can actually make that caveat. I mean, as you go through, that can be a very valid concern, you know, not really enough information available to evaluate. Or, you know, one, it's actually not even in the general plan, the drainage.
Drainage, right.
So, you know, it's pretty hard to make a call on whether or not it's consistent if it's not actually addressed in the general plan. So, you know, those things are all sort of noted, and as you bring them up, facilitate for them.
Well, the other thing we'd say is the planning commission accepts the proposed, accepts the report, and generally feels that generally feels it's consistent with the general plan, but lacks details to accept or to approve. We can
Right, you're not asked to
accept it,
approve it, right.
but we lack the details to approve.
I don't approve the gateway signs.
Well, I don't know where that came from, I have no idea
Yeah.
what signs came from.
You know, it's pretty interesting, because on one side of the sign says, welcome to Atherton, and the back side says, thank you for visiting Atherton. No, well, I don't think that, I like people to visit, but I just think it's always a function of what's the purpose, I mean, so,
Yeah.
so.
But it was in there.
Yeah, so it's, I think, the number one thing is, what I would be wanting to say is that I am in favor of having a plan that makes sense of the community, that covers the areas that we've talked about here, even if it is, you know, so for example, we can have a bicycle plan that says bicycle paths will be limited to these types of areas, you know, under these conditions, right? That could be the plan. It couldn't be like every street in Atherton has to have a bicycle path, right? So I'm not assuming anything about scale to any of these statements, but I would not want anybody to assume I did. And that's where
Yeah,
we're
that's
going.
what I'm
Right.
concerned.
All right, so do I want us to have some kind of an idea about streetlight replacement for the lights we have? Yes. Do I want to have an idea about traffic control devices? Yes. So I got the list, and each one of these areas is something I think is appropriate for the government to have a stand on. So that part of it, to me, makes sense. When it says, do you approve the improvements to the park for the plan you don't have, that doesn't make sense.
Okay.
All right,
Right.
because that leads to all kinds of like funny questions.
Have we got enough to start with?
I think so.
Now, how would we do that? You would draft it, and what happens? I'll sign it or something like that? On behalf of the
Sure.
planning commission?
On behalf of the planning commission. I can email it to everybody, you can reply only to me with your feedback.
Call a special meeting.
Don't reply to anybody else.
We'll do that.
Yeah, and then we can.
But we make the motion tonight with the caveat that we'd be providing some kind of overall statement, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Overall.
Yeah, and I would say that, you know, I'd be comfortable with what you put together, so I don't know that I need to have a special meeting, I'd be comfortable with what you
Yeah,
highlight.
let's do it by email if you want to. Take a
Yeah.
look at it.
Oh, whichever, I
But
mean,
only send the comments back to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know, because then Brown Act comes into play.
I want that.
Okay?
All right,
No, we don't need a motion, do we?
yeah. we
I
move
would like
forward.
a motion.
Yeah,
That you're
Yeah.
accepting the report generally consistent with the general plan, and you're asking staff to prepare
And we'll submit
a
the,
letter, that the planning commission chair will sign and submit to the planning commission expressing concern with the lack of details.
yeah.
all right, I move the planning commission found the capital improvement plans revised for fiscal year 2014-15 through 2018-19, and the projects included in the program are generally consistent with the Atherton general plan for the reason noted in the staff report, and request that these staff work with the planning chair to highlight our concerns and comments.
I'll second that.
All right. Well, that's the first time you seconded.
Well, been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's approved. One more thing before we adjourn. Last month, we had this accessory buildings and with the modifications to the code, and we managed to get rid of one of them, and we're working well to get rid of the 8-foot situation, and there are several more that we should deal with, or they're rather minor. These are the ones you were talking about.
Yeah, I think, and I don't have it in front of me,
I do.
but I think the only other one would be that encroachment with smaller structures.
But now, in my view, this is not on the agenda, but it has to do with the next agenda. I think we, as far as I'm concerned, we could table the rest of these. Now, what they are is allow small structures to encroach into the required side and rear yard setbacks for the main residence. That's one of them. That's in a lot of detail. Amend the front setback requirement for accessory building constructions on flag lot, and I'm not for that one at all.
Yeah, I don't think there was consensus on that one, right?
Allow provision for pools, athletic courts, and so forth, be located less than 8 feet, or closer than 8 feet to the main residence, but on lots upon issuance of a special structures permit. These are ones that abut a street.
Oh, for the exterior side yard?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, with the special structure
Yeah.
permit, yeah.
And I,
No big rush on that
no
one.
big rush on that one. So, in my view, I think we've done the major part of this, and we ought to table the rest of it. That's my view.
I said,
Well, what I'll bring forward is what you asked for specifically to that code section, and then if we could, at that discussion, talk about what you want to do at the next meeting, because I
That's
think it should be
better.
under the agenda
I
item.
do too.
Right, okay.
But all I'm bringing back right now is the conversation about that
Right,
8-foot separation.
Correct, but then we gotta deal with these other issues and decide whether you're gonna go forward with them or.
Correct.
or-
And so I can list that out.
Next.
Put them on the.
Items
agenda.
for
Yes.
future discussion.
Right.
Yes, because the public might have opinions on what you do
Correct.
and talk about as
Little.
well, so that's.
Yeah.
All right,
No,
a little section,
per your previous staff report, these are the 4 items, and then we can talk about it.
okay, all right.
We do have a lot of new business items,
I think
current applications.
5 so far.
Yeah, so
When I drive up
Next
down the
month.
street, I'm looking at mansion.
Yeah.
we have that many requests.
Oh, okay.
We'll see if they're ready to move forward.
The number of homes
That's a
being
lot.
built.
Let me know when we can be on
Yeah,
this.
we'll need to go.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, the next item is adjournment. We have a motion on that, please.
Don't have trouble for me. I'm having so much fun, I want to.
So moved.
I was having so much fun, I didn't want to stop.
I think Paul just